celebrating 9 years of podcast excellence. The King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Tony Khan did not disappoint with this huge announcement, officially purchasing and acquiring all rights to Ring of Honor Wrestling. And there is the press release as we start Wrestling is Real podcast tonight, episode 675. So, what's included in the deal that Tony Khan has made on behalf of All Elite Wrestling, he has purchased the video library, the brand assets, the intellectual property from what is called independent professional wrestling's most prestigious promotion. Wow. So, Tony Khan announced at the start on AEW Dynamite tonight that he was acquiring the assets of Ring of Honor Wrestling Entertainment LLC from Sinclair Broadcast Group. I'm reading from the press release now. Included the promotion's extensive video library going back to 2002. Brand assets, intellectual property, production equipment, and more. So that means, I guess, that the media company that was working alongside, that was, being used by Ring of Honor to do their work, especially with pay-per-views, he took it. All the championships, everything. What I don't know what they're going to do is how they're going to integrate Ring of Honor into AEW. I don't see where they're going to use it as an independent promotion. But it's interesting that Sinclair, all they did from their hiatus in the last 4 months was prepare one date of a show and TV tapings. That's all they did. They basically had set themselves up to be ready to go and move forward. But in the meantime, the hiatus gave them time to do the sale. And because, if you might remember, if you go back to, I'll tell you the episode right now. I did an episode that took off really well and really got everybody interested in what was going on with everything. So, first of all, I had Ring of Honor's Final Battle that happened back in December of 2021. And if I go back and look at that, episode 660, you can find that episode about that as I talk about Ring of Honor's Final Battle. And when I said that they were finishing up the promotion, it's true. I don't know what they're going to do with Supercard of Honor. What they're going to do with that and what goes forward if those plans get scrapped. But this announcement just happened, and the signature was laid down today. So what we know right now is the sale has to be completed. The sale has to close, which I guess would be in about 30 days. It's a pretty big purchase. And so they might just go ahead and continue what they're going to do with the Supercard of Honor, but I don't know what this means after that. In terms of live programming or what, there's no need for Ring of Honor to start back up as a promotion again. Utilizing the titles on AEW television could be done. Utilizing the brand name could be used as well. There's a lot they could do. I don't know what they're going to do. But for those that decide that were let go from contract, there were a number of stars that were picked up by AEW. And for the rest of those stars, they probably won't be coming back to Ring of Honor, but they're all working in other places. The other thing I got to think about as well is that this weekend we have TNA Sacrifice. And Honor No More right now is a faction that's been held up by a number of Ring of Honor stars that were very much active in the company prior to the hiatus. And they've all been working pretty extensively right now throughout. The only person that's not part of that group is Jonathan Gresham. But you're looking at the stars that are there and the title holders. The only people we're not seeing in there is Bandito. We don't see Dragon Lee. We don't see Flamito. We don't see Roosh, who's still injured. So the names that will be left to be part of what's going on here, the Ring of Honor Pure Champion, Josh Woods, he's been out and he's been defending, or she's been out there working. I know that. Roxy's been working until she dropped the belt to Deonna Purrazzo on television on Impact Wrestling. And then you had a number of stars that were still left that might still be looked at. Eli Isom, Tony Deppen. Actually, Tony Deppen just recently worked a show, and I forget who he worked against. Briscoes have definitely been working as of late. OGK have definitely been working a lot as of late in NWA and Impact Wrestling. And I mentioned back at the time that Sinclair Broadcasting, as of their last earnings call back at the end of 2021, they mentioned that they were $12 billion in debt, $12.530 million in debt, and that they were having their streaming service that was put up and being put together. $8.124 billion. $8 billion of their debt came from Sinclair. No, it came from the over-the-top service, the streaming service. What is that? Well, that's the service now that is going to be launching soon, where Sinclair Broadcast is going to go ahead and create a lot of things. Now, they did their thing where they were able to get the new broadcast network off the ground. Now, let's go ahead and get you up to date on what happened with Ring of Honor and why Tony Khan was able to come in here and most likely got the promotion at a good price. It's because Sinclair had their back against the wall. Their direct-to-consumer streaming app is now expected to soft launch second quarter of 2022. So coming up in April or May, they're supposed to launch. Monthly subscription would be $23 a month. That's been reported, but Sinclair CEO Chris Ripley has denied that. But they would soft launch. The plans would be launching the streaming service with 5 Major League Baseball teams, then launch with all the NHL and NBA teams of which they have streaming rights. So they're going ahead and pushing their streaming platform out there without anything to do with wrestling, except for the fact that Women of Wrestling, WOW, has been acquired by Sinclair, or their programming has been acquired by Sinclair. So that programming is replacing Ring of Honor on the local broadcast stations, their affiliates, and most likely the cable networks, the regional networks. Done. And so Sinclair wants to do this. They're already invested in. They needed money and they needed to offset some assets because of the debt they had. Now, Ring of Honor is not going to give them that much money. The thought process is that maybe like they were probably able to go and price out at $20 to $40 million for the promotion, which is much more than they bought it for. So Sinclair would have this asset in Ring of Honor that will have made them money because the value has gone up. And for the most part, I'm guessing that it was good for them to hold on to, but they held on to it too long. There wasn't any buyers in the first place. But then also, I mean, nobody knew it was going to happen like this. And we know that Vince McMahon most likely tried to go in and go to this library, but did not get it. But Tony Khan was able to do it and get all the assets. And that helps them out. Now, the other thing that happened with Diamond Sports Group, which is the company that is a subsidiary of Sinclair Broadcast Group that does have this new sports direct-to-consumer streaming network, which is the reason that Ring of Honor was let go off their portfolio. There was an announcement that was made about how they completed a liquidity-enhancing transaction, and that it would provide the company with approximately $1 billion of liquidity enhancement over the next 5 years, enable the company to strengthen this balance sheet and better position itself for long-term growth. Now, this right here, liquidity-enhancing transaction, that's got to tell me that that's part of what Ring of Honor is. That's part of this transaction. But they did not announce what it was. But leading up to their quarterly call, Sinclair Broadcasting put this announcement out to say that they just opened up $1 billion worth of money to invest in their platform. Of the $8 billion they are in debt, they were able to liquidify $1 billion in assets they had to make it possible. Now, they're talking about loans that they had actually had initially to help fund their project. So they weren't looking to unload loans. They were unloading properties. And the Ring of Honor, it wasn't going to be that much to make a big dent into what they're doing anyway, but it's enough to say, okay, this is going to give us some room to work on our new project. Ring of Honor is not in our future plans. We kept it going. Basically, what Sinclair did was they kept it, the appearance of it continuing to run. But what they really did with the hiatuses was they really cut their costs down to nothing and gave themselves a 3-month window to find a buyer. And so Ring of Honor will not exist as a standing promotion. I don't think it's going to do that anymore. But that library, the brand assets, all of it, I mean, unless Tony Khan wants to run shows under that banner, I don't think he will. I think he swallows up. Now, this is much different than what WCW was. I mean, with WCW, that was just a deal and a half. Like, for what the price of Vince McMahon got it for, as we all know. He got it for nothing. And because there was no TV deal in place. This is the same thing. Because what we now know is that Sinclair already has replaced Ring of Honor, more or less, without making the announcement. But to make the product viable, they showed, oh, we're still doing programming. This promotion is still active. It's still flourishing. We're not shutting it down. They couldn't shut it down or else the value would have gone down. But with what Tony Khan does, you get a wrestling mind, a billionaire that can come in, and for Tony Khan's sake, he needs to have enough content so that he can be in the streaming business. AEW needs to be in, and they're going to have to find a partner to work with them, just like where WWE Network did. You'll have now AEW that almost 3 years now, over 3 years, has content with Dynamite, Rampage, Dark Elevation. They have all this content, plus a lot of other content they do outside of that they can now put onto a streaming service, plus a 20-year library of Ring of Honor. Now, they have more than enough that they need to position to a streaming service. If it's HBO Max, because HBO Max doesn't have much in the sports programming, they could position because they have the relationship with Warner Brothers and Discovery. So you could do that. Or maybe there's another streaming service that will take their content on. But what they need to do for themselves, for AEW, is as a sports franchise or as a wrestling company, they have to find themselves on streaming somewhere. And they haven't decided to go and do their own thing. Now, Ring of Honor, that's one thing I don't know they haven't talked about either, but Ring of Honor also has their own streaming service, an Honor Club. Does that get incorporated into AEW? We don't know. These are all things we need to learn about now that are going to make a big difference. Ring of Honor has Honor Club. They already have a streamed in play as well. You have all these different shows that they did on all their intellectual property. You have their belts. You have their library, of which you have a number of their stars right now under contract. I don't know what you do with Ring of Honor. I don't think we're getting an invasion angle. I just think that we're going to get something here where, well, the invasion angle is already happening in Impact Wrestling. I mean, if the idea happens somewhere, it's over at Impact Wrestling now. So what we have here is a sacrifice. Do we find something where the Honor No More gimmick can continue? I mean, I don't know if that's going to make too much difference at all. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter in terms of what they're going to say, but can the Honor No More gimmick continue? Or will these stars, because of their attachment to Ring of Honor, now that the deal has been done, do some of these stars that are still free agents, are they going to be acquired? Or will they just get allowed to be free agents and they'll just decide, well, we're not going to go ahead and go to AEW. We're not going to go anywhere else. We're just continue to go indie somewhere else. Or can some of these stars decide to go and sign with Impact Wrestling if Impact Wrestling is able to sign them? We don't know. But to me, that all looks interesting. And the chapter in Ring of Honor is closed. I don't know if Super Card of Honor does how it's going to work out and what their TV tapings are going to be and what they're going to be done with them, or if they're going to continue or not. But we have to wait and see what they're going to do in terms of the status of the promotion doing anything that was still in play that Sinclair had set up when it came to preparations to continue to do their programming somewhere. But if the TV's not there for them to put it out, I mean, that's the other thing. If there was a deal that Ring of Honor had in place with another network. That would be something that would be a totally different thing. But Ring of Honor knows that their broadcast partners were their owners. And so this was a pretty easy deal to make. I mean, Sinclair Broadcasting decided to sell an asset that they did use for 10 years. And to the credit, I will say this again and again, they get credit for building that product as well as they did. And I can go back to episode 649 where we talked about the promotion going on hiatus October of 2021. And looking back at where we are now, and that some of the thought process was I didn't think Ring of Honor would last as a promotion, and I definitely took the where they went with it and went ahead. Now they decided to go with the Hall of Fame, which is really great. I don't know what they do with that next. I don't know if the Ring of Honor name exists in anything new or only in the historical component of what there is. I just don't know what they do. They have a number of titles. They have a number of stars they can always reach out to, but right now, what else is there to do? There's some red tape to clean up. They have to clean up a few things to make sure that everything's all set. But when it comes to Sinclair, they have unloaded Ring of Honor. It's done now. And we've talked about it extensively on this program. So they did it. It's done. It's over. And now, what does Tony Khan talk about when it comes to this? Let's get into the press release itself. Tony Khan made mention that Ring of Honor's influence on modern professional wrestling is etched permanently in the history books, and the acquisition ensures that its legacy will be kept alive and treated with the utmost of respect. So he's not talking about, here's what we can do. So the deal adds thousands of hours of content to our rapidly growing library, creates new opportunities to expand our footprint on a national and global scale while having the potential to produce new content under the ROH banner. Now, that new content could be new, creating new video content or creating new documentaries, new programming based on the old content. They don't necessarily have to go ahead and make something else. He says he's going to immediately begin exploring opportunities to make the video library available to fans. So we don't know if the Honor Club continues or if this is what they're going to do with this or not. He makes the point of how, in the press release, AEW has already had more than 40 members of the roster appear in Ring of Honor during their careers. And then Joe Koff was also quoted in this press release, so he now unloads his spot as chief operating officer. I don't know if Joe Koff continues on in any way, shape, or form after this, or if he just gets repositioned somewhere else at Sinclair. He said, quote, Ring of Honor has produced some of the best professional wrestlers over the past 20 years, but more importantly, it created a family. I will be forever grateful to everyone in the ROH family who has worked tirelessly the past 2 decades to take ROH to levels previously unimagined. Tony has the utmost appreciation and a respect for Ring of Honor, and I'm truly excited to see how he continues the legacy. The most important thing we take out of this is that the rights, the property, the Ring of Honor name is in good hands with Tony Khan. I don't know if it's just going to be a cash grab, but the real onus of what happens now is that content is a key for him to get streaming, to get on a streaming platform that AEW needs to be on, because the future is streaming. It's already here, but they need to leverage a streaming platform and establish it, just like WWE has done with Peacock, and before that, the networks themselves. The question is, does Tony Khan build a standalone platform, much like how Honor Club has done, but merely to deal with the level of subscriptions or membership he can get on there? And then what do you do next when it comes to their own content streaming on pay-per-view? So they already have their deal set up when it comes to pay-per-view shows and their television programming, their terrestrial cable programming. But then what you do next is you ask yourself, what happens now where AEW has that digital outlet? They have Bleacher Report Live as a place for them to stream themselves. They have Fight TV. And also they do a thing with Fight TV where you can watch a little more of the programming on AEW where you're not watching commercials of Dynamite or Rampage. You got that as well. So does all that right there with Fight TV with the little extra features they do. The pay-per-views, the streaming, the content they now have, the hours and hours of footage they can put up and stream. Where does that get put? Is that something independent that AEW builds themselves, or do they get themselves shopped around to a service? They should shop themselves around to a service. If they can get on HBO Max, if they can get on Discovery. Like, the other problem we don't know is what happens with Discovery and HBO Max. Are they going to be together, combined, what? Can AEW be put in a separate package? We don't know about that either. But we have to wait and find out. Now, a lot of the Turner content is Bleacher Report. You could try to put on Bleacher Report Live and build that more, but Bleacher Report is not a standalone streaming service like a Peacock or an HBO Max or others. I mean, it is somewhat is, but you know, Peacock offers the pay-per-views, and they're able to go and support that kind of thing. The same thing's got to happen with somebody else. Like an ESPN, they support the UFC pay-per-views. And AEW needs to find somebody that will support them for live content and for their archive content to stream it. They have to find someone that fits that role, or they do it themselves. But Tony Khan's going to explore the options. But I know he probably already has been doing that by now. I'm sure there's been some thoughts about what they could go and do going forward to get that all set up. So there's a lot of questions left as to what they're going to do with the content. But the immediate questions are, what happens to Supercard of Honor? And the fate of those Ring of Honor stars that are title holders right now, or we're working with a promotion waiting for Ring of Honor to come back, more or less. We all kind of figured out that Ring of Honor would probably just be an independent promotion working along others if there was a chance that would happen. That's the speculation. But we're still speculating now. All we know is that Ring of Honor just got purchased. And Tony Khan can now do what he wants with it. And the original plans that Sinclair had, he could scrap them all. But we don't know if he's going to do that. And we don't know what he's going to do about the current state of Ring of Honor. That's the important part. We know what he's going to do with the legacy. But what will he do with the image going forward? How is he going to utilize it? I don't know. But it fascinates me. And I think there's something to be said about the Ring of Honor name, that if he's able to use that somehow, some way, I think he wants to. He's already established AEW. But, you know, Ring of Honor doesn't have the name recognition that AEW has already built themselves and the exposure to build in such a long time. But amongst the professional wrestling purists, Ring of Honor means a lot. And even Tony Khan being symbolistic tonight by having the opening match be the two original Ring of Honor stars that competed in the very first show. It was a nice touch. And talk about a huge announcement. Man, it's bigger than I thought it was going to be. I did not realize he was going to go do that. My thought, when I was guessing, was I thought he was just going to go ahead and announce All Out was going to be a stadium show. But no. That wasn't the plan. All we have tonight is the press release, which was released after Tony Khan made the announcement. That's what we got. And Tony Khan had a media call recap. He did a media call for Revolution and did talk a number of things when it comes to their streaming and their TV deal negotiations and all. He also talked about Cody Rhodes. They brought him up. He also said that they're confirming that they're looking at bigger venues for AEW pay-per-views, which is why we're seeing now T-Mobile Arena hosting Double or Nothing once again. He did mention Jeff Hardy, but Jeff Hardy's still under contract, so non-compete is still in play, so he doesn't want to bring up anything about him yet. Same thing with Cesaro or Claudio Castagnoli, which we haven't talked about since we last talked together, because the next day after I record this show, Cesaro's did not choose to renegotiate his contract. He's no longer with WWE. Left. Out. And Cesaro has a lot of things he could be doing right now. Who knows what it could be. But he's done it. And it's quite impressive. A career that he left in WWE. I mean, he never got the world title, but he did do a lot there. And I mean, when I try to think about after he leaves Kings of Wrestling, they split up. And then the plan is the WWE brought him in. He was one of the guys during the real heyday of NXT when it first started up. Well, he had the name Alberto before his Cesaro name. Or Antonio Cesaro. Wasn't it Antonio? That's what it was. Yes, it was Antonio Cesaro. That's right. But he was there 11 years. And back in the day, Oksana was his valet. Man, I forgot how long ago that was. You know, I'm looking at pictures back then, and Cesaro really hasn't changed much. He's always been in incredible shape. The guy is some feat of strength himself. And, I mean, doesn't have to be on that grueling schedule anymore. They did a good thing with him working the bar. So, like, his tag team work, we already know that was really well known. And I think they did try to do something to try to build him over. I mean, Paul Heyman wanted to put that guy over the moon because Paul Heyman did represent him at one point, and he tried, man. The Swiss Superman, they tried hard. And I just don't, and I think they were probably right that Cesaro was never going to get over the top. They gave him a title shot against Roman Reigns in that revolving door of opponents, but it was never going to be much more than that. So we can see what they'll be doing soon enough. But Tony Khan's got a lot of things right, and AEW has the Revolution show coming up this weekend. And we should go ahead and go through the litany of matches they have scheduled for this weekend, which is grand. Again, Edition Arena, Orlando, Florida, home of the UCF Knights, Central Florida. You have, let's just go down, a number of the card that they have so far. So they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 matches scheduled. And there are a couple of matches they already put out for the buy-in, which you got Hook. What was it they put on there again? Hook was going to take on... Oh, I forgot who he was going to take on. Hold on a second. Here we go. So, the buy-in is going to have Chris Statlander against Legit Layla Hirsch. And a story that's been going on somewhat on Dynamite and Rampage, but mostly on Dark and Dark Elevation. And Hook versus QT Marshall. In the buy-in. Which that actually right there alone is pretty fun. So I'm literally going to catch the buy-in going on early on before. And then the matches they have themselves is tremendous. Starting off, Tornado Trios match, Andrade El Idolo, Isiah Kassidy, Matt Hardy versus TNT champion Sammy Guevara, Sting and Darby Allin. So we already know they have multiple storylines right here. A little bit of friction between Matt Hardy and Andrade since they've developed the AHFO. Then you have... Isiah Kassidy, what he was able to do when it came to the Face of the Revolution ladder match. And then other things where Andrade was kind of looking at what to do with him, and there was a bit of friction where Andrade was looking to go ahead and get under Isiah Kassidy's wing, it looked like. Then you got Sammy Guevara, who's already had dealings with Matt Hardy going on well back. And then Darby Allin and Andrade wanting to get Darby Allin as a commodity, a new member in the faction, and buy him in. So you got all that working with each other. Good stuff. That's a good match, and I'll tell you, I think that Sammy, Sting, and Darby Allin will win that match. But that'll be a fun match. That could be your starter. Who knows what they decide to go. I'm going to leave the big feud matches a little bit later. And by the way, Revolution, when you look at it right now, I mean, it really is, and people can go ahead and dispute with me all you want. But when I look at WrestleMania coming up. It's hard to say how Revolution doesn't have a stronger card than WrestleMania does right now. And, you know, keep in mind that WrestleMania, they're still trying to fill out seats. And as I record this show, by the time you hear this, Vince McMahon and Austin Theory will have appeared on the Pat McAfee show to set up a storyline of which I'm guessing Austin Theory will take on Pat McAfee and Vince McMahon will be at ringside accompanying Austin Ring to the match or doing some kind of a handicap. Who knows? Something will happen there. But they'll set that up. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes about how Austin Theory and the whole setup, planting the seed for the Pat McAfee show appearance came out really good. So that's good to know. But when you look at WrestleMania's card coming up, they haven't filled everything out with what they have, but they have already set up a number of matches coming up right now. You have your title matches, which we already know. And besides the titles, okay, when I look at Revolution and what they're setting up, you got your title matches up at the top, okay? World title, women's world title, TBS title, TNT title will not be defended, but you'll have the AEW World Tag Team titles, and then a contenders match for the TNT title in a ladder match. So those are right there, set up. I mean, compare that right now to the level of, you're talking about the level of storyline power that they've already put in to all these matches here and integrated so much emotion behind these. That's the essence of what AEW does versus what WWE has been doing. And before the Ring of Honor story broke out, I was actually going to go ahead and compare the cards and talk about the difference here of what AEW is able to do with their Revolution card and how intense and how chock full of feuds that we want to see pay off to happen here in a pay-per-view that is 3 weeks, it'll be 3 months in the building, in the making. And some feuds have been building up for longer than that. And then you have WrestleMania where you're building it up from the Royal Rumble, starting off from there. Then you're going forward and saying, okay, then we're building up some matches that just got started up. Edge and AJ Styles just started up a feud. And Edge goes heel. Damian Priest and Finn Balor setting up a feud where I guess there'll be a rematch for the U.S. title. Finn Balor is now U.S. champion. And Damian Priest could very well attack back at Finn Balor, and they could have another rematch at WrestleMania. But how important, how much emotional investment do you have in those matches? When I look at AEW, that's what I get is emotional investment. When I look at, and I've been following along with all the programming, man. You talk about Thunder Rosa and Dr. Britt Baker, you go back to that Lights Out match they had last year. And the incredible carnage that was left behind. Ty Conti's gone after the TNT title before, not too long ago. And then she's now going after the TBS title because she continues to be strong in those rankings and stays up on top. So that gives just a reason for all this going on. And they set a nice little storyline to get that TBS title match ready to go. Then you have Triple Threat AEW World Tag Team titles. And you look at Young Bucks and reDRagon and the constant friction between those two factions right now. So much going on with Adam Cole in the middle of this whole thing. And then Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, who have already had their run-ins with the Young Bucks and have dealt with reDRagon also. And you look at that part to go with things. And then you look at the Face of the Revolution ladder match. Keith Lee coming into the fray, gets into the match. Christian Cage is in this match. Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, and a effort now to work together as Team Taz. Christian Cage, also having his own issues with the likes of Ethan Page. I mean, there's just a lot there that you can work off of. There's so much you can work off of there. Creating new feuds, creating new things. Wardlow, you have to worry about his storyline and where he goes with things when it comes to MJF and the Pinnacle. There's a lot there. So various factions involved with this, also trying to get a vouch and try to get a chance at this title. So look, you got Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs representing Team Taz. Orange Cassidy representing Best Friends. Wardlow representing Pinnacle. And then Ethan Page representing American Top Team. And Christian Cage and Keith Lee, the only faces, or pseudo faces, I guess, because Christian Cage, it's a matter of time before he turns heel. And you got those matches. Then so you have matches that mean something. There's invested interest in watching those matches, not just emotional interest, but there's logical interest or implications that will lead determining towards future storylines or future matches, future title matches. So there are implications and ramifications for these matches. The matches mean something. They matter. And then you get Adam Cole, Hangman, Adam Page. You set up that storyline. The build-up has been very good for that. And Adam Cole built himself pretty much straight shot up to the top, undefeated. And now we're here. And then you have the feuds, like the real drag-out feuds. When WWE does theirs, I mean, it's going to be different. Like, put it like this. Among the feuds they have so far for WrestleMania, you're looking at, with no titles on the line at all, you're looking at, in night one, Edge and AJ Styles. And they just started this, which we thought would just be respect. But Edge turns heel for this feud, which is the right time for this to happen. When you look at what he's already done, he's already worked himself through the bone as a face in his best face run yet. But we all know how well he works as a heel. I've always thought his best work was a heel, and that's where he is here. And he relishes in being in this. And I think for AJ Styles to have this match, AJ Styles always has a good WrestleMania match. These two should have the clinic. This is the wrestling match that people look forward to. This will be good. Very good. Could be the show stealer of the night. Then you look at other feuds, they have titles embedded with Charlotte and Ronda, Becky and Bianca. You got Miz and Rey Mysterio. That was a newly fostered feud after Edge for the Miz. And now where do you go from here? So that's just, they set this up so they can have the celebrity, the embedded celebrity into the match. So having Miz work with Logan Paul, it's basically Miz doing what he did last year. Except this time, the celebrity's on his side as opposed to the other side. They're just basically taking the same formula. And Miz works well with this. Works well with Logan Paul. That'll be a fun storyline to watch. But, it's really just entertainment value. Not an emotional investment. You're not like, it doesn't really matter who wins out of the whole match, but it'll be a fun match. Edge and AJ Styles will give you an emotional investment. They can take as much time on Raw and give you that emotional investment, and that's what they're going to do there. When I look at tag team titles, Sasha and Naomi against Carmella and Queen Zelina, this is just a put together. Sasha's been out. They didn't want to put her in any other featured matches, but they put her here with Naomi. They've worked together as a tag team, and they're just going to pair them together. Quick makeshift to give the World Women's Tag Team titles something to work off of, and they'll build it off of SmackDown, and that's it. But we don't know if Sonya Deville's going to be involved with all this, and who knows what else. Then you look at the second night, but like I said, there are no other matches that are just without title implications. Everything else is title implications, and that's when you look at Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, it's for a title. But you could make that match with emotional investment without the titles. But we're going Universal versus the WWE Championship, champion versus champion, and unification. And now the word is that unification will just be for this match because eventually they're going to split the belts back up again. Or they might they'll find a way to go and keep two belts on once again, somehow, some way. Who knows what that'll be. But for the time being, they're going to do unification. Now, back to the AEW card. You got 3 matches. When you look at what WrestleMania, the biggest show of the year, in WWE gives you, they're giving you one significant, emotionally invested, real, drag-down, drag-out feud. A blood feud, basically. And AEW, we're getting 3. We're getting 3. Now, a couple of them have just kind of just generated up, but you got past history with these all. So the build-up with Eddie Kingston and the friction that has been called with the Inner Circle with Chris Jericho when it comes to Eddie Kingston's relationship with Santana Ortiz, which goes back a while. Then Jericho and Kingston coming together at having butting heads with each other, basically on a great promo to build up the match. Like last week's promo between Kingston and Jericho, you just take the money right now. I'm buying in. I'm already in. You could give me half the card, and I think it's worth the price you pay for it. I really do. When I look at it, if you held off a couple of those matches, because they got Battle of the Belts coming up, you could hold a couple of these matches off, and this card will still be stacked. But this card is absolutely stacked. There is not a weak match on the card. Not a one. Not at all. So now, Jericho and Kingston has been built up to such a crescendo. What a great match there. Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley. The history just big ass itself. And Bryan Danielson's been on this ongoing thing of becoming more violent. He's turned heel. And now he has Jon Moxley in his crosshairs. And they've already had their back and forth as well. But then the match of matches, the match that it's kind of hard to be saying I can't wait for this match, because I can't wait for all of them. Honestly, I love the whole damn card. Like, I'm ready to watch it right now. Okay? When I look at CM Punk and MJF, it's one for the ages. One of the best feuds I can even recall in 40 years of watching wrestling. This is like Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes good. Okay? This is kind of like Edge, John Cena good. This is like Stone Cold Rock good. You're talking about two of the best promos there are. And MJF is still an anomaly, 24 years old. And then just the extra step tonight. The icing on the cake of this feud. If you couldn't get ourselves any better, the setup last week, which I feel like there's real sympathy behind it, but then the way it was paid off tonight. So MJF went completely passive-aggressive. This guy is a full-fledged sociopath character. Like, this guy is just off his rocker. And he is, this feud has made him go to another level of just having a conniption with CM Punk tonight. And the lasting effect of seeing CM Punk half-choked, dog collar, noticing that MJF was wearing all white, and underneath his jacket, he had a shirt with a picture of him and CM Punk at a younger age. The infamous picture. Smeared in blood. CM Punk caved in with a dynamite diamond ring, bitten on, crimson mask, blood pouring down, stuck in the chain, and CM and MJF, damn it, he's the devil himself. Like, what gold of a promo. What a gold of a match. I can't remember the last time maybe, give me like Saturday Night's Main Event back in the day. But when you wanted me to have a match where I want to see one guy get the shit kicked out of, when I want to see a heel beaten and pummeled to within an inch of his life, damn it, you gave me CM Punk and MJF. And CM Punk, I am rooting for wholeheartedly to humble this guy, to humble MJF, and just to put him in his place. Seriously, just pummel this guy to the ground. Because, CM Punk, I would just hope that these guys, it's like no DQ. It's no DQ anyway. It's a dog collar match. This is going to be gruesome. And the reputation that AEW has with their matches now, and what they're able to build off of it, man, excellent, excellent stuff. This whole damn card is solid. We will do a post show for this, and I will also talk about TNA Sacrifice coming up this weekend here on the Wrestling Is Real podcast. Look for that, wrestlingisreal.com. I'll have it all there for you. And this will be a fun damn weekend. What a weekend anyway. I get to watch the Batman on Friday, TNA Sacrifice, Impact Wrestling Sacrifice. I'm sorry. Impact Wrestling Sacrifice on Saturday, and then Revolution on Sunday. Completely overshadowing anything I can think about with WrestleMania because we're still too far away from it. 5 weeks away from it now, coming up on 4 weeks. Still not in my front view right now. It's just we got to get past Revolution first, and what this show is going to do in Orlando to really pump people up. Like I've already talked about the fact that AEW, when they put these pay-per-views on, I really am rarely disappointed. And I feel confident they're not going to disappoint me again. They just deliver. These pay-per-views are so... And, if they wanted to do every month, they could do that. But, man, this every quarterly kind of deal, these pay-per-views mean so much. And it's not like they're promoting the matches so far ahead. Like, you're knowing matches going out like 6 weeks or maybe 8 weeks from now, but you know where they're going with things. It's a bit predictable that way, and I love that. And AEW does the best job of promoting these kind of events. And don't get me wrong, the same thing goes for Impact Wrestling, same thing goes for MLW, same thing goes for NWA. And they're all going to be great matches I'm going to enjoy across the board. MLW just had Blood and Thunder. They're going to have their Super Fight. Actually, Super Fight just happened this weekend. Then you have NWA. It's got the Crockett Cup coming up. And then you're looking at... I don't know what Ring of Honor Super Fight, a Super Card of Honor is going to be yet. If we're even going to get that. So, AEW really does the best job at doing pay-per-views. And they're really... people don't want to hear the praise for AEW if you're a loyalist and a diehard WWE fan because, it's not in you. It doesn't behoove you to go ahead and look for other promotions when, there's no end-all, be-all. And we know there's some of my fellow podcast brethren, they're going to feel the way they do about things. And I understand that. There's a loyalty to your brand, loyalty to what you have. But I've always been one that enjoys underdogs. I love the underdogs. I root for the underdogs. In sports and everything, I'm always rooting for the underdogs. So when I see AEW doing what they're doing, they haven't let me down. I watch Dark and Dark Elevation every week. And if it's Paul White and Mark Henry talking the Excalibur and they're just talking shit, or Taz just making random comments just to make Excalibur laugh, I'm giggling along like I'm giddy when I watch those shows and I'm watching. And I have my own personal things that I enjoy watching those shows too, watching Dark Order and matches, or watching Sky Blue, or watching, various stars that come in by surprise to go and work matches and all. And even to me, the things that you can also pick on that you're like, what's the hokey stuff with Orange Cassidy and Danhausen? I didn't get Danhausen in Ring of Honor. I get him here. I really do. That goofiness, the comedy, it's not... We have comedy characters so much as we just have these characters that just work, and they fit. They fit the format of this show. Plus, it's also a bit of a little bit of a personal thing to me where AEW doesn't feel like Nitro anymore. It doesn't feel like WCW anymore. I think they've gone past. I think Tony Khan's done such a good job of avoiding the mistakes of the past. They're not perfect. Their wrestling is not completely above par. Okay, we know some of the wrestlers, they struggle a little bit. Of course they might have botches, but who else doesn't? It's a live show. If you're watching Impact Wrestling, you're watching MLW, you're watching NWA, they're all taped, so they can edit down the mistakes. They're not leaving a lot of that stuff in. But AEW, you're watching their live shows, you see some botches. Yeah, it's going to happen. The same thing happens in WWE. We know that. But they put such a good card together. And WrestleMania, I'm not going to compare them both in terms of like the fact that I think the WrestleMania is going to be a disappointment. I don't. But I also know I graded on a curve. Because the show's not completely of what I'm looking for. It's a bit different. And I get that part. And that's okay. But what they're giving me so far is really, really solid. And I love all that. So this weekend we will do a post show for Revolution and Sacrifice. I don't want to talk about Sacrifice right now. Coming up this Saturday. So you got Honor No More that's going to be featured. It's the OGK, Mike Bennett, Matt Taven will take on Rich Swann, Willie Mack. That's going to be an excellent tag team match. Alex Shelley is back from injury, so he accompanies his fellow Motor City Machine Gun compadre Chris Sabin to take on Jay White. Alex Shelley versus Jay White, and Jay White will have Chris Bay in his corner. The Inspiration will defend the Impact Knockouts World Tag Team titles against the Influence, so just a rematch. Trey Miguel will take on Jake Something, who won, what was it, it was a qualifying match. And I think that would happen. Didn't it happen? Yeah, that happened a few weeks ago over at No Surrender. So Jake Something won his chance to be number one contender for the Impact X Division title. He gets that title shot at Sacrifice. Good Brothers will take on Violent by Design. And Good Brothers will be accompanied by Chris Bay and Jay White. Violent by Design will be accompanied by Guerrillas of Destiny. Impact World Tag Team Championships on the line. And then Rhino will be accompanied by Team Impact. Will take on Eddie Edwards, accompanied by Honor No More. Then Jonah versus PCO. And Mickey James versus Tasha Steelz. Or Chelsea Green for the Impact Knockouts World title. Because we'll see who the winner is going to be Thursday night on Impact. And, of course, I'm not recording this show by the time Impact actually happens up. And I'm not watching spoilers. Because I'd rather not spoil myself. But let's talk about the matches themselves. I'll do predictions right now. So I'm going to say these Impact Plus pay-per-views, there are never title changes. I don't think there's going to be anything that are like that in this here either. Moose versus Heath for the Impact World title. I got to mention that too. So I'm going to say Tasha Steelz beats Chelsea Green. And I think Mickey James retains the Impact Knockouts World Championship. Eddie Edwards will beat Rhino, and there will be a lot of back and forth with all those people at ringside. I think Good Brothers will retain for the Impact World Tag Team titles. I think Moose obviously will beat Heath pretty quickly for the Impact World title. Trey Miguel, Jake Something should have a pretty good match together. Jake Something is, I'm starting to warm up to him a little bit more. A little bit more when I watched him at the shows, the tapings in Fort Lauderdale. So I'm starting to see a little more, but really, there's not many layers to Jake Something. Also, make a point that Josh Alexander is not here, and we don't know where he's going to be either down the line, which is kind of sucks. I think Inspiration beats the Influence, and I think Jay White beats Alex Shelley, and I think Honor No More will beat Rich Swann, Willie Mack. In the matches at Revolution AEW, Jay Cargill will retain the TBS title over Ty Conti. Oh, man. This is going to be tough. I will take Bryan Danielson over Jon Moxley. I will take... Wow, this is going to be tough. I'm going to say Jurassic Express retains the tag team titles. CM Punk will beat MJF in the dog collar match. I don't see... or MJF could very much win. But... remember, CM Punk already lost. So there's that on his belt. And basically, they kind of technically say that CM Punk lost twice. But I don't see where you can't make it happen where a dog collar match happens and CM Punk will win that match over MJF. And it's not going to hurt MJF at all. Not in the slightest. Tornado Trios match, AHFO versus Sting, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin. Sting, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin will win that match. By the way, there's one more contender yet to be found out. Ethan Page, Christian Cage taking on each other in the Face of the Revolution ladder match. I'm going to say Ethan Page wins that match, and he'll be entered into this match. And man, this is going to be tough. Yeah, I'll pick Wardlow to win. I'll pick Wardlow to win the ladder match. If not him, I'll pick Powerhouse Hobbs. And that's tough. I think Thunder Rosa will dethrone Britt Baker as the world champion, women's world champion. And I'm going to say Adam Cole becomes AEW world champion at Revolution. We're going to get some title changes. I think it'll happen on the two main belts. I don't think we're going to that more than that. I think Adam Cole and Thunder Rosa will come out as world champions at Revolution. I think that's actually going to happen. That's where I go with that. I'm going to just take a couple minutes to talk a couple stories that are out there that I really don't want to talk about, but I'm going to do a thing now on the program where I'll take a minute just to give a very short take. I mean, something meaningful that I'll talk about based on stories that I really don't care to really talk about much. But if I have to say something about it, I'll say it. Okay, there's Lena Fanene, right? The former Nia Jax, making comments about Ukraine. Listen, why are we worrying about Nia Jax? She's not going back to wrestling again. Why does it matter what she says? If she has her platform, she can say what she wants to say. I don't even know what the whole story is, why it's such a big deal about that. But social media, they decided to go ahead and pile on whatever. But she opened her mouth for whatever reason, and this is what she gets. She gets canceled. Okay. But she's not even working anywhere. So what are you going to do that for? What's the purpose of it? The other story I saw that got some interest was word about Triple H and his future in the company, because there was a story that came out that his executive assistant had been released by WWE this week, and her name was Lisette Pineda, manager of global talent strategy and development for WWE, was let go by the company. And the story notes from the PW Insider that she was Triple H's top executive assistant, and there's questions about Paul Levesque's future with the company. PW Insider notes that some in the company have said that it was probably just a matter of time before she was let go, because Levesque is yet to return to work full time because of his heart issues, and her role is limited at best. And there's been discussion whether Levesque is ever coming back, and people who have been in constant communication with him have not spoken with him in some time. So there's no indication he's anywhere close to stepping back in to any role. But then some people might say Levesque might be close to coming back because of Pineda leaving her post. And Dave Meltzer indicated this week on Wrestling Observer Radio that his heart issues will likely prevent him from wrestling again. So whatever happened to him was more serious than we really don't even know. And that's where we are with that. Other than that, those are the two stories I saw that I felt like I'll make a couple of comments about it, say something about it. It doesn't make much difference to me, but, everybody has to have a reason to chatter and talk. So, but getting back to our original story, the top story of the night, where Ring of Honor stands after this. I'm really curious. What happens next? Do we still get the Supercard of Honor? And what happens with everything else? I mean, really, what comes up next? I really want to know. And I'm really excited to see what they do, if they decide to do anything with it. It's a thought process. Ring of Honor's all elite. And I feel like there is a lot of value to the product and what they could do with it. I just don't know what it's going to be. But man, it's really cool. And in a way, it also kind of takes a little bit of precedence over the fact that Tony Khan buying Ring of Honor is a testament to the importance of what Ring of Honor stood for in 2017 and 2018 before All Elite became a thing. Because Ring of Honor was there giving a platform for the stars that would create All In. That would help to later create this show. Because Cody Rhodes, Young Bucks, they all were working here. And there were a lot of other stars that, when they were trying to find somewhere to go, and then they got picked up. Ring of Honor is responsible for so much. I've said this before. There are many stars in WWE right now that owe their careers to Ring of Honor. And then AEW, in a way, because of the fact that these stars that were not working anywhere else but Ring of Honor or New Japan and the relationship they had at that time, it changed everything. And so AEW has ultimately changed the scope of professional wrestling tonight. We had a shift in the movement, a watershed moment, if you will. It's happened. And it's a wonderful thing. because the best part is Ring of Honor is not going to die off. It's not going to just get taken in a cash grab and then be disseminated and be picked up by some kind of private equity firm that will just go and use the intellectual property in the video library and just sell it off and just, eat through the carcasses that are left. Ring of Honor is still going to matter. It'll have a legacy that will continue to be heralded by the likes of AEW and by what Tony Khan will be able to do with that company and with their assets. They're going to still be a respected company. I just don't see where Tony Khan wants to do anything with the promotion as an existing promotion in real life now. But maybe using some of the assets that they have now in his ownership where they're utilized within what they're doing now. Who knows? But I'm glad to see where the Ring of Honor is in a good place. It's now at a new home. And good on Sinclair for selling it to Tony Khan and doing that. So I'm happy to go and see all that. I'll be back this weekend for Revolution, Sacrifice. Enjoy those pay-per-views this week. I'll have a post show coming up this Sunday night right here, WrestlingIsReal.com, for another Wrestling is Real podcast because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at WrestlingIsReal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.